Okay. Okay, let us stop the music. Good, good, good. Very good. Thank you. Okay, I think we all had a lot of time to see our amazing PowerPoint presentation that we prepared. Yes, and to get familiar with the speakers and all. So, hello everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hello. I'm Jana Barisic-Doshin, a project manager from Croatia and working with Art of Living Educational. And today I will be your moderator. So on behalf of the World Forum for Ethics in Business, we welcome you to the biggest summit of the year on changing paradigms in pandemic world, how to regain trust. So the World Forum for Ethics in Business is a public interest foundation registered in Belgium, actually. And today, on occasion of World Health Day, WFEB has invited the leading experts to put into perspective the current ethical and other implications and consequences actually of the pandemic on our health, on our work, and on our life. So WFEB is delighted to partner with Art of Living Educational in bringing this panel together with our great guests. So we will have the opportunity to hear insightful thoughts from the panelists that we have with us and to experience interactive sessions prepared by Art of Living Educational. So during the course of the session, feel free also to tweet, like, and ask your questions on YouTube, Facebook chat channels. For the ones here on Zoom, you can address your questions with a private message to Dr. Charu Basu, and she will select you for the panelists later on. So what to say? We look forward to hearing from you. Now I am delighted to start this roundtable with the topic new family and educational approaches post-COVID. So in that sense, my first question goes to Mr. Philip Roipka, who is, yes, Mr. Philip Roipka, who is here as a representative from the pedagogical section or at Gutenam, Switzerland. So hello, nice to have you here. Mr. Roipka, last year we witnessed how a majority of children had to do homeschooling. What do you think was the most challenging part for children and their guardians, of course, with regards of homeschooling? Can you please share with us?
Yeah, so hello to everybody. So actually I'm speaking out of my experience as a director of a private kindergarten in France, working with Steiner Waldorf education. And what I have experienced in this period was, on the one hand, some children had a positive experience because their parents had time time to be with the child, do some activities, some basic, nice home activities like cooking, gardening, making a shelf, repairing the car, and the child can be and help and have a nice relationship with the parents who are not any longer in a stress, not any longer in a hurry, no timetable the whole time. So wonderful. But these were some privileged children who had already somehow a privileged and nice relationship with their parents and who were living in a nice surrounding with the garden and nature outside. But those who were living in big cities with only a small flat and perhaps even difficult parent relationships and social and economical underprivileged parents and all this, for all those, it was terrible because of two things, actually. I'm speaking out of my experience, two things. First, the lack of rich and meaningful, joyful sense experiences. I'm especially speaking from for the small child until 6 years. So all this was lacking. No go out, no running, no climbing, no nice smells, no cultural experiences, nothing of this. So the little child before 6 years old is constructing his intellectual and psychological structure out of meaningful, rich sense experiences, yeah? And also meaningful activity he can do itself. This wasn't possible for many, many children. So this is then was so difficult for their psychological and even physical development. And then another very difficult influence also, this is the fear and the stress and the hysteria of the adults, because this is a very, very strong factor who influences child development. Is it the inner attitude of the adult? So if the adult is stressed, if it's with fear and hysteria, this affects the child so much. The little child until 6, 7 years and even later needs our warmth, our optimism, our inner confidence and trust. And if the adults are in panic, this is just so difficult for the child. So what can we do as adults to regain our trust, our warmth? This is for me the most important. I was so much thinking about this film, wonderful Italian film from the 90s, last century, La Vita è Bella. La Vita è Bella. How this father was in the train with his daughter, and the train was going to a Nazi extermination camp. And he knew he was in a difficult and really challenging and awful situation. Awful. But he stayed with joy, inner calm, and he kept a positive relationship to the child. So it was such a marvelous example. So how could we do that we all together today, as parents, as teachers, we stay in this mood with joy, confidence, inner calm, and give this as a gift to our children. This is the most important for me. Yeah, thank you. So.
Yes. I would say this is very important and insightful perspective. Thank you, Mr. Reifka. Let us all stay with your questions and answer for ourselves later on and see what can we do about this. So to go further on, I would like to introduce us to Miss Françoise Zenz as a co-director of primary schools in Luxembourg. Please share what were your observations on the emotional impact of the pandemic and how school could help to take care of it.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. Yes, as you said, I'm the teacher in Luxembourg, and I worked for 20 years for primary schools with children between 6 and 12 years. And now in January, I just changed my job and I became co-director of 12 schools in Luxembourg. So right in the middle of pandemic, changing job, that was quite a challenge. But I would like to begin my speech to refer to a character of a Disney film, Olaf the Snowman from Frozen. I don't know if you know him, but he always says, "I love hugs." And this is exactly one of the biggest problems for the children in the pandemic, in my opinion. This social, physical distance for a child, this distance through the ban on contact and the masks that have to be worn all the time has an extreme effect on their emotional development. In Luxembourg, literacy takes place in German, for example, which means that it is not in the mother tongue. Children at the age of 6, in the midst of their literacy, can only learn the new language by listening for the moment. The visual support provided by facial expressions is completely absent, as it is for all foreign language learned as French and English, which are also mandatory in the effects will be seen in 1 or 2 years. Learning also takes place through imitation, through analyzing the facial expressions of the other person. However, if these facial expressions are covered by a mask, this is devastating emotional distancing for the children. Any facial confirmation of their behavior disappears. Friendships are destroyed because social contact is not possible or the parents are too scared. Everywhere there's distancing in the children's environment. Many young people no longer see a future, have depression, anxiety, no drive, no longer have an exchange at university. Everything is reduced to the cognitive delivery of learning material and has been for months. The socially important aspect in the learning process is completely forgotten. Therefore, in my opinion, it is very important now and also after the pandemic to restore the emotional stability to the children by integrating at least 1 or 2 hours a week into the current curriculum, where the children have a platform to talk about emotional worries and feelings, to communicate, and especially after these months of separation, learn to connect with their classmates and teachers again. The teachers must be giving tools in further training how they can accompany the children at this level, and the school system must absolutely see the importance that the emotional stability is just as important as the cognitive education of the children. Without emotional stability, learning cannot take place. Only those who learn to embrace the unpleasant and learn to deal with it in order to transform it will, in my opinion, find the way out of fear, oppression, and depression by learning to accept what is there, to embrace it and transform it, and then grow. This can be done with the help of mindfulness courses, breathing techniques, which I think we will see afterwards, to reduce stress, and emotional stability, yoga, meditation, everything done in the classroom itself. As I said before, this would be best to integrate 1 or 2 hours weekly into the official curriculum. After the pandemic, in my opinion, it is very important also to teach and fix the emotional development more intensively by offering more excursions, more class trips and exchange opportunities so that the children can reconnect with their peers as quickly as possible. Theatre, school, newspapers, musicals, performances, any art projects, everything creative should be increasingly taught after the pandemic to fill the hole in children's development again. Therefore, it is now important to train the teachers to do this so that the damage does not get bigger than it already is. Now is the time to do something about it. Because, like the character I started my speech with, children, and I think you too, like me also, love hugs. So hopefully we can hug life again very soon.
Very beautiful, Ms. Zenz. I really hope we will hug life as you said again, and that these needed changes will come to every curriculum in Europe and broader. Thank you very much for your sharing.
Thank you too.
Our next panelist is Dr. Donatella Bonripossi. She is director of Tuscany's Regional Scholastic Office. So, Doctor, we read about your amazing thoughts on how students who love their schools, are devoted to its beautification, will be citizens of principles once they grow older. So how do you think this pandemic could affect the students, keeping in the mind that they barely could step out of their homes the whole year? Please address us in this question.
Thank you. Salve a tutti. Sono molto felice di partecipare a questa tavola rotonda relativa a questo terribile momento pandemico che stiamo vivendo.
So I'm very happy to take part in this roundtable discussion with all of you regarding this terrible moment that we're all experiencing.
Lavoro nella scuola ormai da molti anni e coordino 2 importanti province della Toscana. Forse conoscerete Lucca e Massa Carrara.
I've been working in the school system for many years, and I'm currently head of the Board of Education in Lucca and Massa Carrara, that maybe you know. And I coordinate all the different types and levels of schools in these areas.
Ho bambini dalla scuola dell'infanzia fino alla scuola superiore.
So I have experience in working with all types of children, all types of schools, right from the nursery to high school.
Questa pandemia segna una linea di demarcazione storica prima o dopo la pandemia.
This pandemic marks a historic dividing line between pre and post-COVID.
La scuola e le famiglie hanno sofferto molto, come ha detto anche Philip.
The school system and families have suffered a lot, as Philip has already said.
La pandemia ha messo in evidenza le differenze sociali. Le famiglie meno abbienti, per esempio, non disponevano di strutture tecnologiche, ma il Ministero ha provveduto a fornirli.
The pandemic has highlighted social differences. The less well-off families didn't have the technological support and devices, but the school system, the Ministry of Education, provided them.
La pandemia ha anche evidenziato le grosse differenze ancora esistenti tra uomo e donna.
The pandemic has also underlined the still present differences between men and women.
Ma soprattutto ha marcato le difficoltà dei nostri bambini disabili, con difficoltà cognitive, motorie e comportamentali.
But in particular, it has underlined the problems experienced by our disabled pupils here in Italy, especially those with cognitive and motor difficulties.
Noi facciamo della integrazione la nostra bandiera e i bambini disabili sono inseriti nelle scuole dal 1977.
Integration is Italy's distinctive characteristic, and these disabled children have been part of our normal schooling since 1977.
questi gli aspetti negativi che avete evidenziato anche voi, ma ci sono aspetti anche positivi nella pandemia che verrò ad elencare.
So we've talked about the negative effects of the pandemic, but now I'm going to outline some positive ones.
Si è capito, almeno in Italia, l'importanza e la centralità della scuola.
In Italy, we've understood the importance and the central role that the school system plays.
I giovani hanno sperimentato i limiti di alcune libertà che davano per scontate.
Young people have experienced the restrictions of our most essential freedom due to this pandemic.
Le mamme italiane sono molto chioccia, però con la pandemia molti bambini hanno acquisito autonomia, responsabilità e per molti bambini stare dietro al video è stata una opportunità per superare alcune paure e ansie personali.
Italian mothers are like mother hens. No, they pamper their children, but the Italian children have learned to acquire autonomy, independence, and I missed the last bit. Missed the last bit, Donatella. What did you say was the last bit?
Ok, alcuni bambini, alcuni ragazzi li abbiamo persi e dovremmo recuperarli.
Okay, some young people we've lost them along the way and we need to get them back again.
E altra cosa importante che molti hanno appreso dalla pandemia è che siamo tutti interconnessi e ci ha fatto capire quali siano i problemi veri.
Another thing we've learned from the pandemic is that we are all interconnected and we've understood what real problems are.
Ma soprattutto che le soluzioni non possono essere individuali, quindi è importante lavorare insieme.
And especially that the solutions cannot be dealt with by the individual, but they can only be solved by groups and teams together.
Per il futuro vorremmo bambini e ragazzi con teste nuove, fatte bene, ma soprattutto che abbiano appreso i valori di questa pandemia, i valori positivi.
For the future, we would like to have children with good heads that are well trained, but that they have with new values, equipped with new values, basically, that for the future.
Per fare questo e costruire cittadini nuovi, abbiamo però bisogno anche di una scuola nuova.
So in order to do this and to have new citizens of the future, we need to create a new type of school system.
Non più la scuola tradizionale immaginata con le classi, i banchi, le cattedre.
So no longer the old and traditional structure of classes with the desks and the teacher's table.
Ma nuovi ambienti di apprendimento dove si può discutere, dibattere, capire e costruire i problemi, capire i problemi e costruire le soluzioni.
But we need a new learning environment where the pupils can meet, can debate, can discuss problems and look for solutions.
In conclusione, una nuova organizzazione, un nuovo modello scolastico che sia più rispondente ai bisogni e alle necessità dei nostri studenti.
So we need a new model, a new type of schooling, a new model that is more apt to meet the requirements of our pupils in the future.
E il bello di questa conferenza è che appunto c'è questa visione di acentricità, di interconnessione e di lavoro comune fatto insieme.
And the good thing about this type of conference is that there is this absence of centrality and the desire to work together and find solutions together.
Vi ringrazio tutti e spero di avere un'altra occasione per stare con voi.
Thank you all, and I hope that I will have another opportunity to be with you.
We for sure hope the same, Dr. Bonriposi. Thank you for your highly informative opinion. And I believe that this line that you were mentioning, we are going to cross together and see the values continuing in the future. We also, during COVID-19, that human values were really shining through, above all, social role, positions, mental patterns, and so on. So my next question is for Dr. Mirella Scarazati, a pediatrician in the city of Milano. So please tell us, Dr. Mirella, yes, you are here. So please tell us, besides your medical consultations, doctor, did you experience at some point that you also were uplifting the spirits of children and parents during this pandemic time?
Buongiorno, sono una pediatra e lavoro con bambini e adolescenti a Milano.
So hello, I'm a pediatrician and I work with children and adolescents in Milan.
Ringrazio Philippe e François per aver citato Frozen e La vita è bella, che sono cartoni e film che io amo molto.
I thank Philip and Françoise for having talked about Frozen because I love these cartoons.
Dal dicembre 2019 la malattia da Covid-19 si è rapidamente diffusa, diventando nel giro di poco tempo la prima pandemia del XXI secolo per numero di morti.
So since September 2019, the coronavirus illness caused by the SARS virus has spread quickly. And it has become the #1 pandemic of the 21st century as regards the number of victims, over 2 million in the whole world as of February the 2nd, 2021.
I bambini sembrano essere meno colpiti rispetto agli adulti, con un quadro clinico che di solito è meno grave e un tasso di mortalità che è significativamente più basso.
Children seem to have been less affected than adults by the pandemic, with the clinical situation less severe and a significantly lower death rate.
Yes.
Okay. Tuttavia, il bambino e l'adolescente positivi per SARS-CoV-2, pur essendo nella stragrande maggioranza dei casi asintomatici o paucisintomatici, possono comunque vivere con difficoltà l'isolamento a domicilio o in ospedale.
Nevertheless, a child or adolescent who is SARS-CoV-2 positive, while being asymptomatic or with few symptoms in the vast majority of cases, may experience difficulties during the required isolation period at home or in hospital.
Aumentano anche le segnalazioni di un disagio in bambini e adolescenti non positivi, quindi non infettati, ma disagio conseguente al lockdown, alla chiusura delle scuole e alla sospensione dell'attività sportiva.
There has also been a number of reports of an overall distress in children and adolescents not infected by COVID due to the lockdown, the closure of schools, the suspension of physical activity and lack of socialization.
L'entità di questo impatto dipende sostanzialmente, sia presente sia in Italia che in Europa, dipende da diversi fattori, come l'età del bambino, delle vulnerabilità presenti prima di condizioni di salute fisica e mentale o condizioni socio-economiche disagiate delle famiglie.
And the nature and extent of this impact, both in Italy and Europe, depend on various factors of vulnerability, such as age, pre-existing physical and mental health conditions, and the socio-economic situation of the family.
Mentre ormai ci avviamo verso il secondo anno della pandemia, dobbiamo elaborare strategie che garantiscono una riapertura sicura delle scuole.
And while moving towards the second year of the pandemic, we need to develop strategies that will guarantee the safe reopening of schools.
La scuola non è solo un luogo infatti di apprendimento, di nozioni, ma uno spazio in cui bambini e ragazzi interagiscono, socializzano e confrontandosi maturano una coscienza civile.
School is not just a place for acquiring notions, but is above all a place where children and young people interact and learn to socialize and have the opportunity to exchange views and to develop civic awareness.
Una particolare attenzione poi va data agli adolescenti, che sicuramente più di tutti sono penalizzati e stanno soffrendo per le limitazioni scolastiche e sociali che li costringe in uno spazio confinato.
Particular attention should be paid to adolescents who, due to the pandemic, are suffering the most because of school and social restrictions, which bind them to a confined space.
E così da pediatra vorrei condividere con voi alcune riflessioni sul diritto all'istruzione e sulla necessità di sensibilizzare l'opinione pubblica in merito ai problemi delle famiglie.
So as a pediatrician, I would like to share with you some reflections on the right to education and on making the public aware of the problems that families have.
Anche il nostro lavoro di pediatri in questi ultimi mesi è cambiato molto. Infatti dalle visite di controllo o per patologia siamo passati a lunghe chiamate o videochiamate di supporto a genitori in difficoltà.
Even our role as pediatricians in this period has changed. So the normal checkup visits have been replaced by long telephone calls of support or video calls with parents who are finding it difficult to manage work and their children's distance learning and living in confined spaces.
Vorrei mettervi a conoscenza così di una delle tante telefonate che durante il giorno mi arrivano.
So I want to share with you, talk to you about one of these phone calls that I received.
Qualche settimana fa mi ha contattato la signora Paola, il nome è di fantasia, madre di 4 figli, 4 miei pazienti, che in pochi giorni si è trovata a dover gestire il lavoro da casa e a gestire i suoi 4 figli.
So a few weeks ago, I got a call from this lady, Paola, that's not her real name, right? Who's the mother of 4 of my patients, who in just a few days found herself having to deal with her job, managing her work situation and her family.
Andrea, adolescente di 15 anni, sofferente e arrabbiato per la mancanza di libertà. Luca e Anna, 2 simpaticissimi gemelli di 8 anni, alle prese con la didattica a distanza. E l'ultimo nato, Tobia, di 21 mesi, che comunque aveva bisogno di costanti attenzioni.
So she had to deal with her children. So Andrea was a 15-year-old adolescent, angry about his lack of freedom.
Effects of huge financial crisis characterized by an inflation of almost 50%.
Sorry, I'm hearing somebody speaking something else. Okay, it's gone. Okay. So Andrea is a 15-year-old adolescent, angry about his lack of freedom and also his isolation from his friends and his football And then there was Luca and Anna, who are 8-year-old twins, having to deal with distance learning using a smartphone. And then the youngest will be a 21-month-old baby who requires constant attention.
Paola, dovendo lavorare, far fronte alle esigenze della casa, della famiglia, ad un certo punto non sapeva più come comportarsi, non sapeva più che cosa fare.
So Paola has to work, and so at the same time having to take care of her family on her own, at a certain point she no longer knew what to do.
Quindi diciamo che noi operatori della salute, a contatto quotidianamente con le famiglie, dobbiamo riuscire a trovare un modo per alleggerire la vita di tante famiglie attraverso la promozione di alcune azioni. E adesso sarò breve, cercherò di riassumerle.
So those of us who are health workers and in contact with children and the families, we must try to find ways to lighten the load of the families by undertaking effective measures, which I now want to underline. I'll try to summarize.
Allora, intanto promuovendo delle azioni efficaci, quindi ricordando ai bambini e agli adolescenti che ognuno di noi può fare la propria parte, compiendo le azioni che permettono di sentirsi più sicuri.
So, for example, implementing effective measures like reminding children and adolescents that each one of us can play our part, doing simple things for our safety.
Sottolineare il senso di comunità, i comportamenti che noi mettiamo in atto sono utili per noi stessi ma anche per gli altri, e quindi restare a casa significa aiutare e aiutarsi.
So emphasizing the sense of community, the way we choose to behave can affect us and other people, right? So staying at home means helping others and also helping ourselves.
Dobbiamo insegnare ai genitori a guardare il proprio bambino, ad ascoltare il tono di voce, a verificare se abbiamo sempre un contatto visivo e il suo respiro. Dobbiamo essere comprensivi.
Okay, we need to teach parents how to evaluate their children's state of mind. So, for example, tone of voice, their visual contact, breath.
Poi possiamo proporre alle famiglie di curare molto l'alimentazione dei bambini e degli adolescenti, di ricreare una routine quanto più simile a quella precedente.
Okay, so we also can propose that the families take care of the diet and they re-establish a routine as similar as possible to the previous one.
Yes, Dr. Mirella Scherazati, I believe like we can really elaborate of the steps that are necessary to take.
Concludo. Diciamo che la pandemia finirà, non sappiamo quanto, ma sicuramente finirà.
So just to conclude, I want to say that the pandemic will end. We don't know when it'll end, but it definitely will end.
È difficile immaginare quale potrà essere il nostro futuro e come educatori, come genitori e come pediatri. Ma la pandemia...
It's difficult to imagine what our future will be as educators, parents and pediatricians.
Ma sicuramente il messaggio positivo che io cerco di trasmettere alle famiglie e ai bambini è che ci offre comunque un'opportunità di immaginare un mondo migliore se saremo in grado di guidare questo cambiamento.
So it offers us, this pandemic offers us the opportunity to imagine a better world if we are able to lead the inevitable and necessary change.
Dovremmo concentrarci sui diritti dei bambini e degli adolescenti e solo così riusciremo a ridefinire i nostri valori e consegnare ai nostri figli e ai figli dei nostri figli un mondo più vivibile e più umano. Grazie.
So we need to focus on the rights of children and adolescents, and this is the only way we can prove that we are able to redefine our values and hand down a more humane and livable world to future generations. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. I hope this will inspire many others in your field, and we will really redefine necessary changes. Now let us continue further. I would like to call Mr. Ryan Wilson, international art of living educational expert trainer, to guide us through an interactive session.
Yes, thank you. So I'm here on behalf of the Art of Living Educational, which I'll let my colleagues talk about a little later in the interactive session. But we thought, after hearing 4 of our guest speakers, to have a short breathing practice to freshen us up. What do you guys think? Is that okay with you? Every one of our speakers talked about its importance. Mr. Roydke talked about how the parents and the educators' inner state is most important. And Dr. Bonriposi also was talking about how we need to innovate schooling, so we can also innovate also this roundtable with a short interactive session in the middle. And as well as Ms. Zenz and as Ms. Garazati was just saying, the breath is also some way that we can do that. So I think we all agree. Let's put these good ideas into practice, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So this breathing practice is something we use also with children and teens that can also give a lot of energy and center the mind at the same time. Sometimes when we have a lot of energy, our mind is scattered. So how can we have these 2 things at the same time? If you've practiced a little bit of yoga, maybe you'll know it. I'll just demonstrate once and then I'll explain and we can do together, okay? Maybe some of you will know this. This is the bellows breath, or in Sanskrit, bhastrika. It's very easy. We can all do it together. We can put our hands in a loosed fist near our shoulders and our elbows are against our body. It's in 2 parts. The movement, which is very easy. Everybody has seen cheerleaders at schools. So we throw the hands up and we open our hands when they're up. Okay, and then we bring them down and our elbows lightly tap our rib cage. Like this. Okay, so this gesture is easy, right? Then the breath that goes along with that is a forceful dynamic breath by the nose on the in breath and the out breath. Okay, so tissues by your side are your best friend, or at least your computer's best friend. So we can then associate both of them. We'll do 3 rounds. I'll guide you, and we can take a light pause in between everyone. It's normal if there's some tingling sensations or some dizziness at the beginning. It's not expected, but if it's uncomfortable, obviously you can stop before I stop the group. And people that are pregnant or have heart problems or high blood pressure should refrain from doing this process. Okay, we can take a deep breath in and breathe out. And then we can commence together. Breathe in and out. In, up, out, down, up, down. Breathe in, out, in, out, in, out. Breathe in, out. Dynamically in, out, up, down, up, down, up, down. Breathe in, out, in, out. In, and relax when you're down. Relax your hands, and let's keep the eyes closed a few seconds and observe what's happening. And if everybody's experience is okay, we can do a second round. Same thing. Okay, this time maybe you've seen it, you're comfortable with it, maybe we can keep the eyes closed and get in contact with this inner state that all of our speakers were talking about. Close their eyes, take a deep breath in without moving, and breathe out. And let's try it again. Breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, up, down. Breathe in, out, in, out, in, out. Breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, in, and relax. Relax your arms. And again, take these precious moments just to observe what's happening in my body, my mind, thoughts, emotions. And we'll do a third and final round. This time we add the secret weapon, like we would say with our kids, which is a big smile. Let's see if it changes something. We've done it twice. Now let's do it with a big, stupid American smile with your teeth. You can all make fun of me. Yes, like this. That's it. Let's take a breath in without moving. And breathe out still with a smile. Yeah, we've already lost some. And let's go. Breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, up, down with a smile, down. I love hugs, down, up, down, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, up, down, in, out, in and out, and relax. And the most important part, a few seconds of silence in our busy day, even in the middle of a round table, in the middle of a meeting. And when you're ready, take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, with a gentle smile on the face, you can open your eyes. I hope this was useful. We'll talk more in the other interactive session with my colleagues, but how to bring our energy up and our mind centered. The breath is one tool that we can use, among other that the Art of Living Educational uses frequently with children, teens, but also parents, educators, and everybody around the family and schooling activities. Back to you, Zana. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was fun and very uplifting, I would say also. So let us continue with the panel and get to know the next few panelists, which we are delighted to have with us. For the beginning, Professor Ross Deutscher, being a professor of criminology, criminal justice at the University of the West Scotland. My next question is for you. So based on your expertise in youth crime and policing, do you think that COVID-19 has impacted the crime rate amongst youth? And how did youth handle this pandemic? What would you say?
Thanks very much, Maria, and thanks for inviting me along today. Yeah, I'm a professor in criminology at the University of the West of Scotland. And for many years, I have worked with disadvantaged youth, young people who are involved in things like gangs, violence, and also drug distribution. I've often found there are very strong links between adverse childhood experiences, experiencing abuse, neglect, various kinds of household dysfunction when growing up, experiences of trauma, and later addiction and dependency issues on alcohol and drugs, and sometimes involvement in things like gangs and violent offending. And one of the things I've done is to explore the root causes of this kind of behaviour, but also to look at the interventions that work best to enable these young people to begin to move away from some of these issues. I've worked a lot in prisons in Scotland, but also in the United States and in Denmark. And contrary to what a lot of people think, these prisons tend not to be full of bad people, particularly bad guys, because the majority of the people I've worked with have been young men. They're full of traumatized individuals who are often self-medicating to deal with mental health issues and lingering issues of trauma. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about what I'm observing in terms of how the pandemic and lockdown restrictions has impacted on these kinds of young people, but also adults as well that I have worked with. So as an example, a recent Ofsted report in England on a secure training centre for young people, Rainsbrook Secure Training Centre. It's based in Willoughby near Rugby in England, identified that as a result of the COVID-19 guidelines, teachers in 15
Professor, I have the sense that we are losing you.
Are you losing me?
Is it only me, or there is, yeah, somehow, and we would very much like to hear your opinions, so maybe Pat.
Yeah, I wonder if I use earphones.
Now it's better. Now it's better. Now it's better.
It's now better. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Something happened. Maybe like this.
Oh, can everybody hear now? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay. Good. So, yeah, I was saying that you know, having worked with these disadvantaged young people and young adults who are involved in crime patterns, and you know, maybe heavily dependent on alcohol and drugs. I've been interested to look at how the pandemic and the lockdown restrictions have impacted on them. So I've got a few illustrations from the UK to share today. So a recent report, an inspectorate report on what's been happening in Rainsbrook Secure Training Centre in England. So it's based in Willoughby near Rugby in England. And it identified that due to the COVID-19 health guidelines, children as young as 15 were being locked up in their bedrooms for 14 days at a time, and sometimes only allowed out for 30 minutes a day. Now, clearly, the prolonged implementation of these extreme restrictions will have had a significant impact on the health and well-being of these young people, who already have a wide range of trauma because of you know, their childhood experiences. And clearly the links that I and others have identified between adverse childhood experiences, trauma, issues of drug addiction and violent offending behaviour, it is possible that the traumatic experiences associated with these lockdown measures may have increased some young people's proclivity towards violence in the future, or made them more susceptible to addiction issues and reoffending patterns. Also in Scotland, where I'm from, a report by the Children and Young People's Centre for Justice and also the Children and Young People's Commissioner for Scotland have looked at the impact on children who are on remand awaiting trials in secure accommodation in prisons, and found that during the pandemic, children experienced an extended period without face-to-face contact with their families, social workers or lawyers, and long periods in their cells with nothing to do. So clearly there are huge implications in terms of mental health and well-being, and also all of the other issues that I've mentioned about potential for reoffending rates in the future. In a wider sense, almost a quarter of Scotland's prison population is currently awaiting trial due to the delays in the justice system that has taken place because of the COVID pandemic. And these remand prisoners, and we're talking more about adults now, have been spending 23 hours a day, sometimes in their cells, to stop the spread of the virus. In terms of wider issues in the community, in Scotland, I'm very sad to have to report this, but we had a total of 1,264 drug-related deaths in 2019. This was the largest number ever recorded and higher than any other European country. And within those figures, there was an increase in 15 to 24-year-old drug deaths reported, moving from 64 the previous year to 76 that year. So this was just prior to the pandemic. And it's very troubling to think that children as young as 15 could potentially be dying from these issues. It's very likely, we don't know yet because the figures have not been reported, but it's very likely that addiction issues will have worsened during lockdown. And there has also been a reported heightened risk of things like online grooming and exploitation of children and young people due to the greater use of social media and the internet during the lockdown restrictions. And feelings of isolation increasing and greater substance misuse among children and young people while confined to their own homes. So I believe that the implications are enormous for our children and young people. And we need in the future to have a direct and prolonged focus on addressing the collateral damage that has been caused over the last year because of the restrictions in relation to mental health, addiction, potential for offending and reoffending rates, both addiction issues in communities and also in prisons and young offenders institutions. I'd just like to quickly mention at the end, one of the pieces of research I've been involved in over the last few years has been looking at the impact of the Art of Living, Prison Smart and Breathe Smart programs, particularly focusing on the programs in Denmark, working with Jakob Lund. And I have interviewed almost 30 men who had been heavily involved in addiction issues and had been heavily involved in criminal activity. A lot of them were motorcycle gang members, for instance, or drug dealers, or both. And what I found was underlying their patterns of offending and addiction were deep issues of trauma. A lot of them were suffering from depression. They had suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. And by engaging in Sudarshan Kriya and Sudarshan Kriya yoga programs for a number of weeks and months, what I found was they were beginning to open up to their feelings and emotions, sharing some of those emotions, sometimes for the first time with others, having a growing sense of peace and well-being. And amazingly, they reduced their dependency on alcohol and drugs, and in most cases gave up that dependency completely, and in some cases also moved away from prescribed medication that they were using for things like depression and PTSD, and replaced it with the use of the breathing techniques and the meditation. And so I think there are profound implications here about drawing upon these programs in the future for our children and young people as we set about the task of rebuilding well-being amongst the most vulnerable. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for sharing, Doctor. I was a professor. I was like just astonished and afraid at first hearing these numbers. And as I know, Breathe Smart, this program, I'm familiar. This was my first thought, like maybe this can help. So yeah. I'm happy that you saw it as useful. And I hope that we as a society will broaden your and implement the vision and the things that you also notice as useful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next panelist is very well known, Mr. Sherif Rizkallah. we are glad to have you with us, being a moderator, a journalist with the ZDF and ZDF logo. Welcome.
Thank you.
You are very much aware that the media was flooded at the times with COVID-19 news, of course, and lots of youth were being impacted by the rise of their presence on social media, and especially when their life, their real life was overpowered by the virtual lives. So I wonder, how do you think media can how do you think media can play a role of spreading awareness on such an issue? Can you please share?
Well, thank you, Jana, very much. So when you say well-known, most probably well-known to kids aged 6 to 13, 14, or their parents, which is usually also the case. Before I get to answering your question, there's just one point. After listening to what Philippe and also what Donatella said, I just have to concur with them completely. I think the pandemic had, if one can say it had a positive side effect, it is that it put children and education really center stage in politics and in discussions, which was long overdue and hasn't taken place for quite a long time. And I think this pandemic showed, well, where still work has to happen, and where for a long time it has been neglected to do change and to reassess things. And I think the lessons we learned from this time will, or hopefully will, pass on and will somehow reform and transform, especially the education system and, well, the whole area in which children move. And to your question now, I've been working with ZDF Logo as a host and reporter for about 2.5 years. And our main mission, or our main goal, has for 30 years now been providing children with the information they need to just fully understand what's happening in the world. Because we strongly believe that if children have the necessary information, they need to understand what's going around their area. It will reduce fears they have, because, well, at the end of the day, we are all humans, and every human tends to, well, have some fears or have some questions about things he or she doesn't know or never really fully understood. And when the pandemic started last year, our role became, I can say, more important, or more important than it has ever been, because all of a sudden, children were at home all day long. They had tons and tons of questions, and they were waiting to get answers. And on a weekly basis, we basically got hundreds of questions, mostly from children, sometimes also from parents who just didn't know how to explain these complex issues to a child that is about 6 to 13, 14 years old. And we understood the situation. Everybody was hungry for information. And especially children were just trying to grasp and understand how such a small, tiny virus can turn their lives completely upside down, basically overnight. And for the first weeks, this is what we would have. This was our main job, explaining what this pandemic is, what the virus is, how it spreads, what is a mutation. So just trying to get the basic information out there. And after somehow we checked all the boxes for this basic information, we realized that our role became more and more challenging, because as a kids news program, we completely understand that we have a huge responsibility. And so we found ourselves every day, we have this meeting where we discuss the topics for the evening's show. And we found, well, one question in particular being asked every day by somebody in the team, which is, if we do this certain topic in tonight's show, will it cause more anxiety for the children, or will it actually help reduce anxiety? Will this information help, or rather overwhelm them? And this question became more and more difficult to answer with time passing. And in the course of the past year, we just found that many, if not most people became more and more, Germans would say right now, wütend, which is a mix of müde and wütend, which is exhausted and somewhat, but also angry or, well, just tired. And this has been also in our minds. People are tired and people are exhausted. And this issue, pandemic and the coronavirus, has been omnipresent in every aspect of our lives. So we thought, instead of, well, trying to circle around this problem, we just took this problem and made it actually the main issue for quite a while, and even until now in our program. So we started addressing it. And in our program, on an almost daily basis, we try to provide tips on how to deal with the current situation. We try to have what we usually also do, a mix of topics, not only negative news, but try to have some positive news. And this was difficult because trying to find positive news in this huge news cycle is quite difficult, because everybody's just focusing on what's not going correctly. And for my part as a host, I try to share personal stories, just thinking about this child that is sitting in front of the TV or their tablets or their computers and listening to me talking. And I tried, and me and my colleagues as well, tried to involve personal stories and involve personal feelings, just trying to have this vibe or this message put out there that it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to feel fed up. And it is completely fine to just say, I want to tune out what's happening. And better times will come. And I think we all feel the same. And the idea was, if I feel that way, why shouldn't I share it? Because we also deal a lot with this social media bubble where everybody's just showing the good part of everything without trying to show the bad part. So we try to have a more realistic view and trying to involve the kids and show them, you're not alone in this, and you will have a better time, and life will get at a certain time back to normal. As Mirella also said, this pandemic will end at a certain point. We don't know when, but it will end. And this is the message we're just trying to convey. This is just the status quo, but it will change, and it changes every day. And trying to have this, what we like to call constructive journalism, instead of just reporting the bad news, just trying to take the news and, well, give an idea on the whole area. For example, a recent topic we had was vaccinations. Vaccinations in Germany are at about 5%. When you hear this news and you think, wow, a country like Germany is not able to vaccinate the people more quickly. And then you have the positive news, the United States is doing it way better. But then we try to take it as a constructive part. Show the broad picture. Don't show just two parts of it. Show them that the whole world is waiting for a vaccine. Show them that countries, for example, in Latin America and Africa, are waiting even longer than we are. And by just providing this whole picture and trying to find a constructive way out of it, we try to reduce the fears that they may have or the exhaustion they may have. Do we succeed in doing this every day, every night in our show? Probably not, but we try every day. And I think this is something that I think the media plays a huge role in. We now have to have this dance between providing information, explaining complex issues, and at the same time giving the feeling that the viewers shouldn't feel overwhelmed, because they're being flooded by information every day, and too much information can sometimes just have the wrong impact instead of calming down, just overwhelming. And we're trying to guide them also through the situation. I think guidance is something that everybody is eager to have these days, and we're curious how long it's going to last. We're trying to find new ways. We need to be creative, or more creative than ever, because things are just going into a routine, and we're trying to show our viewers on a daily basis that although the situation might drag on, it will get better. And this is, I think, a huge point the media has to play. Just think a bit more constructive, and that way it will calm a bit more the situation. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Exactly. So many tips and tricks. I hope other medias are also watching, are ready to implement what you guys came up with. Thank you, Mr. Iskala. So we have with us Miss Margot Sicaboni, a famous actress, yoga and health coach, writer, a mom. So I wish to welcome.
Thank you so much. Hello. Thank you. So beautiful to be amongst so many beautiful and rich spirit people. Thank you.
Yes, Miss Sicaboni, you tweeted a long time ago a very beautiful thought that is not about always having a positive, happy thoughts. It is about always being light-hearted and happy. I found it beautiful, and I would like to ask you, how did you maintain this state during the last year when we were all at the same point experiencing neither a pain of losing a loved one or seeing the whole world affected by this pandemic?
Yes, I didn't. I didn't. And I just love to create and share the truth, which is what Sharif just said. And I so appreciated what he said about how important it is on media to talk about the truth. Otherwise, people will feel less than and will feel isolated, because media now has a very important role. And so what I did during my period in pandemic was to create this sharing experience with people through Instagram, where I started to tell the truth about me as a mother, being alone. I was alone with 2 kids and my dear mother, who accepted to have us in her house while the pandemic was on. And it was incredibly hard. And I did collapse many times as a mother, as a human being. My kids are very small and didn't understand what was happening and why dad wasn't there. And so I did collapse, but what I used to reach out of my darkest moments was to create a link with other people. So I used Instagram as a link for me to tell my truth and to share this with other mothers that were having the same experience as me, or other girls that were really having a hard time. So I started to do yoga sessions with people, which was fantastic because many people didn't know about it. They always thought yoga is not for me, yoga is for somebody else. That is not me. I can't. Instead, through that moment of being stuck in our houses, this sharing experience with Instagram was huge. In the meantime, with my life, I was going through a crisis in my marriage, which was crazy because the world outside was collapsing. My world inside was collapsing. But again, I felt and I knew it was something very important, because truth is always better than not truth. And so it was just, I understand it was a learning process for me. So, and I use this as well as a vehicle with people to, share my experience and see what other people were going through, for them not to feel alone. And this gradually brought me to write a book, which I did write this summer. I finished this book, and it's about my experience. It's called Respira, Breathe. And there's actually an exclamation mark, because it is vital we do breathe and take responsibility of our life in this present moment as mothers, as human beings, because it's really what we make of this present moment that will have an impact on us and on the people around us. And even just in sharing how hard it is. And so all my life as becoming a yoga teacher and finding and seeking the truth in every step is inside of here, and it came out in March. And so it's amazing how pandemic for me was, as everybody now said about how it has 2 faces, it really did have 2 faces. It was destruction of my marriage and of all the world as I knew it, but also a link with people that brought to me the possibility of sharing yoga, the possibility of sharing my book, the possibility of feeling less alone for myself. So yes, thank you so much for this moment.
Thank you. You all make this moment possible. So it is us to say thank you, really, to everyone on this panel, and really beautiful sharing. I'm deeply touched, really. So before we take your questions, we are a little short in time, but before we do, it is my pleasure to invite Miss Luisa Braun, an international Art of Living educational expert trainer, and Dr. Cristina Toscano, the director and teacher trainer of the Art of Living Educational. I would like them to give us a short insight on this panelist partner organization and to take us through a practical session.
Thanks so much. It's an honor to be here with all of you today and to show some insights into our Art of Living educational method. So Art of Living Educational is the branch of the Art of Living Foundation dedicated to the pedagogical application of the Art of Living method. So it offers life skills programs to empower kids, youth, families, and educators. And there we work with individuals, with educational institutions, public and also private organizations operating in the educational field. And our programs are aimed at strengthening the fundamental life levels. One is the cognitive level, so everything that comes to problem solving, making effective decisions, creative thinking. Then the emotional level, which includes self-awareness, managing emotions, managing stress, anxiety, all that part that was also widely discussed today. And then the third level is the relational level, on the level of empathy, of having effective relationships with the people around us. And these life skills actually, as we really saw in this discussion today, have become so much more important throughout this pandemic time. So to offer support through our tools, our techniques that we have, our European team of over 100 trainers and volunteers has conducted numerous online workshops during these times, many of them free of charge. And during our family mega event in November and December 2020, we reached over 550 families from across Europe who learned these tools and techniques that we teach. And instead of just talking, we had so much talking today already. So I'd like to, for us to experience some of these tools together. So because we do work with children and youth, we'll do some practical part in the form of a game. And then after that, I'll hand over to Cristina, who will lead us through a very short meditation to round up and sink deeper. So let's all put our child shoes on. For the next few minutes, we can all be spontaneous, have fun, smile, and just be 100%. And at the same time, while we do it, we can observe our own state of mind during the process of what's happening inside of us, in our thoughts and our emotions. So I think you all must be familiar with dance and freeze. We'll play music, and then when the music stops, you freeze. Now we are adding a little twist to this. When the music stops, I emotion, and we will all just express full anger, be it confusion, be it happiness, just be fully with that emotion. And then once we continue dancing.
Okay, so because we are losing your voice for the second, so when the music stops, we should express emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's
Feel
have
free
fun.
to keep sitting, stand up, and stand dancing. Whatever you prefer is fine. So I'll
Used to be the ghost boy looking for hard to get it. So to be the one living in the fast lane.
Dance along!
It's so hard to get it. It's so hard to get it.
Fusion.
Confused, huh?
I'm waiting for a destination I still don't know. Somewhere nobody must have beauties at all. And if you like this, you can follow me. So let's go. Follow me. And let's go to the place.
Anger.
We belong and leave our troubles that won't come with me. We can go to the paradise.
Happiness.
You can be my guiding light.
Love. Back to the hugs. How was it? Was it a good break?
I could continue doing this.
Yeah, we could continue for longer, but we're running out of time a little bit, so we're keeping it a bit short. So at the same time, like now we were really thinking, what is it that we can do and experience in such a short session with all of you here that still gives a little bit of a insight on how we work. At the same time, also freshen up the atmosphere and bring some new place for new thoughts, and also to sink deeper, because after so much inputs, when we then move and we free our intellect a little bit, it's so much easier to sink deeper in meditation. And so one of the main pillars is really to live the we teach as teachers as well, and it's so important for educators, for parents, for teachers to live as well that knowledge that you want to convey and be an example. So for that, to have that awareness and to also feel free and to express and who you are and work on yourself is very, very important. So that's a little insight into that. And now I'd like to hand over to Christina.
Yes, thank you, Luisa. Now we are ready for a meditation. So let's straight go into the meditation. It's very simple. How many of us has never meditated? Please raise your hand if this is your first experience. You will see it's very, very simple. You can just sit comfortable wherever you are. You can be in your back. You know, everyone can meditate. Actually, we have all meditated, all of us, for 9 months when we were before our birth. And that's what we do when we're meditating. We just relax, just enjoying the moment. I will guide you through my voice and just relax. Nothing to do, no pressure, no deadline, nothing. Okay, so just sit comfortable and close your eyes and observe what is happening inside of you right now. Thoughts might be coming. Accept every thought. Become aware of your breath and just listen to my voice. No need to concentrate. Just as if you were listening to music. Become aware of your breath with the eyes closed. Take a long, deep breath in and let go. Become aware of your body, of your face. and give yourself the most beautiful smile. Feel that smile. Bigger smile. Only for yourself. No one is watching. Everyone's with the eyes closed. And let it spread all over your body. Let it reach every cell in your body, every corner of your mind. Let it smile. And let your awareness expand. And this smile infect everyone around you, everyone here with us in this conference, everyone in our country, everyone in the whole world. Take a long, deep breath in and out. And with your beautiful smile, you may open your eyes. How was it? Super short, huh? But sometimes it's good enough. Huh? We tend to think that we need long time to meditate, but only short time is needed. And a smile is so important. We tend to underestimate the power of our smile. A sincere smile means, yes, I accept it, isn't it? I can accept the situation, however tough it is. I can accept this situation. I can accept this part of me. I can accept that person. And with active acceptance, then the change begins. Then the long-lasting change begins without rejecting, it's not fair. I don't like it like that. Just active acceptance. And we can all do that. We can be the agent of the change for our families, our schools. It all begins with mastering ourselves, from active acceptance to change. This is one of the pillars, my favorite, of our methodology. But the question is, how do we do this? How to be able to really accept who we are, what is around us? Just smiling? That's a good start, but yes, not enough. So for that, we have the techniques that Ryan and Luisa have mentioned, and we are offering so many programs. Yes, the one that is being shown now is the upcoming one, the Family Mega Event on springtime. So if we will have a full day with sessions for kids, teens, parents, and educators. And there is an info line that you can contact to register, and you are all invited.
Beautiful, beautiful. To be invited on such a nice place. It is always beautiful. Being familiar that all of you Art of Living educational people working as a volunteers, I highly admire to the time you're giving to this world, to children, to everyone. Thank you. So we are close to the end, let's say, and we need to slowly finish our beautiful session, our panel. Thank you so much to everyone. Firstly, we would like to continue this important conversation, and in that sense, we will try to find creative ways to answer a few questions that we got, and to address them and to see how to give the answer, as we are not able in this moment because of the shortness of time that we have left with. So we invite you to be in touch with us and to follow the various World Forum for Ethics in Business social media. I invite you to all join to the next session that on this conference that we are having. It was a pleasure spending time with you. I wish that we could talk more, elaborate more. For now, thank you to our dear speakers and all of the viewers. Thank you so much, and we are officially closing our panel and wishing you all the best, and let's keep going with the positive attitude. Yes? Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Amazing tech can show the slides. So if someone wants to join and continue to the conference, they can just read QR code and continue. Bye, 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 Mirella. Bye, Francois. Yes, you can just read this QR code with your camera, and you can continue with us on the next session if you are free to join us on this free conference further. Thank you.
You are welcome to stay back and stay with us for the next session. Yeah, and yeah, there will be new people who will be joining in. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks, Sana.
Sandeep, can you share with us what is the topic of the next session, just in case?
I think I've told it in the, okay, once again, I'll tell you. Welcome to the power of yoga and natural and well-being.
Oh,
yeah. Hey, thanks, Prashant. You know, he's already sharing. I've just put it in the chat a little while earlier so that people can choose. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
So welcome, and some of our last session participants are still here, so you can feel free. For your information, we will be recording this session. We'll be recording this session. Prashant, do you want to pause for a minute? I request you to check your mics and
could you make us a co-host, please?
Yeah.
Hello, namaste.
Yes. Now we are good to go. Almost a second.
We need the music.
Fantastic. We are good to go. Why? Because we are now in live also with the people. Now I'll enter. I'll make the other people enter. We are live in YouTube now. We can start.
A warm welcome to everyone joining us from around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever is it that you are. On behalf of the World Forum for Ethics in Business, we welcome you to the biggest global summit of the year with the theme of changing paradigms in a pandemic world, how to regain trust. The World Forum for Ethics in Business is a public interest foundation registered in Belgium. The mandate of the forum includes all manners of pursuing and establishing the indispensable ethical foundations of business in a globalized world. Today, on the occasion of World Health Day, the World Forum for Ethics in Business has invited leading experts like those on our panel today to put into perspective the current ethical and other implications and consequences of the pandemic on our health, our work, and our life. On this panel, the Sri Sri School of Yoga is delighted to partner with the World Forum for Ethics in Business. During the course of our session, feel free to tweet, like, ask your questions on our YouTube or Facebook chat channels. We look forward to hearing from you throughout the session. Today's session is titled The Power of Yoga for Natural Health and Well-Being. Now, we didn't ask for a pandemic, but we were thrown into one. Such is life. On a daily basis, we are asked to rise up to challenges all around us. In this ever-demanding world, how do we ensure that we remain at our best? We are powerhouses of talents, yet sometimes the world overwhelms us. Over here, the concept of wellness has transformed. It's simply become a way of life for us. And when we talk about wellness, it's very important to talk about yoga. It tops the charts as one of the most sought after offerings. Our esteemed panel of speakers today explore and enlighten us on various aspects of yoga and how it can truly make a difference in our life. I'm Vasudha Vijay, your moderator for today. I have had the blessing of having 15 years of work experience in the wellness field as a trainer, and I've had the ability to support so many people throughout the Middle East and Asia in my work as a wellness coach, yoga trainer, corporate trainer, and a healing therapist. This is truly the path where I found my calling. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce to the first and one of our most prestigious guests and speakers of this evening. He's known as Professor Dr. B.R. Sharma. He's currently the Dean and Faculty of Health and Wellness at the Sri Sri University. Dr. Sharma is an academician having more than 35 years of experience in the field of yoga, education, research, and he's been honored and awarded various national and international associations for his lifetime achievements in the field. With the World Health Organization, he's drafted the benchmarks for training and yoga and is still rendered as one of the best in the field. For more than 33 years, he's also placed himself in various capacities as head of philosophical literary research in the Yoga and Principle of Yoga College and Cultural Synthesis. He's also been nominated as a member of various prestigious government committees and also the Ministry of Ayush with the Government of India. Having such years of experience in his field, he has 13 books in collaboration to his credit and also 50 research papers published in renowned journals. Without any further ado, I welcome Dr. Sharma to give us his thoughts on the field.
Thank you very much. And my namaste, my pranam to everyone connected with us, all the viewers and all the panelists. My topic today is the power of yoga for natural health, healing, and wellness. So before I open my presentation, I would like to say a few words that in this age of science and technology, if we observe the health state of mankind, we have to accept that in spite of various advancements in the field of healthcare, we are losing our axis of balance and harmony at all levels: physical, mental, emotional, ethical, social, and spiritual. And presently what we are doing, we are opting one pathy or the other, just with a view to overcome our psychophysiological problems at the superficial level, without going to the roots of these problems that may give us temporary relief, but cannot provide a permanent solution. Therefore, there is a need of the hour is to find out the deep underlying roots of the inner disturbances of man, so that we can live at ease within and with our social environment. Yoga basically is a science of spirituality, has recently been recognized widely as a science of health and healing throughout the world for managing various psychophysiological problems of man. And you might be knowing the sage Patanjali, who has written this Patanjali Yoga Sutra, whose work is in the field of human psychology, is recognized in what you call, I will share my I have to open this. I don't know. It is already open. Yes. Yes. Is it visible to you? So he has given us the techniques or to find out the roots of our inner disturbances, and also he has provided us the procedures, the techniques with a view to maintain our psychophysiological balance. So if I talk in terms of health, our yoga or Indian thought does not divide man in watertight compartments. It considers man as a whole, encompassing body, mind, and spirit. Now here, the spirit aspect of our true realm, which naturally tends towards the peace and harmony, but the body-mind both, they belongs to the realm of prime matter, but we used to call it Prakriti. But this mind part, as you see, this mind part, it can participate in the body as well as the spirit. If it participates in the body, it can lead us to the imbalance in the psychophysiological functions. But if it is connected to the spirit aspect, then it can maintain even the, what you call this, body-mind complex, balance in the body-mind complex. So this is, so the root cause of our all problems lies in the mind, because if the mind is agitated, if we are disturbed,